Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, the Witkoff Organization, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns. Additional funding has been provided by AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Cohen Equities, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Dime Community Bank, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hodges Ward Elliott Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantil Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Polsonelli, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Knackle Group at Cushman & Wakefield, Maring Goff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
It's Brooklyn. It's a place that everybody wants to go to. It's the hip place to be. It's everything, an opportunity. You know, it's residential. It's a workplace. It's a place to shop. It's the market. So today I've assembled this group of leaders who, many of them who live in Brooklyn or have a definite involvement in Brooklyn, to give their thoughts on what's happening in Brooklyn. My guests, they include Brian Leary, who is the co-founder and partner at CPEX Real Estate Services. Paulo Garcia, who's the Senior Vice President in charge of the New York region commercial real estate for Mercantil Bank. Andrew Salomon, who is the Managing Director of Commercial Development for Madison Realty Capital. And last but not least, John Catsimatidis, who is the Chairman and CEO of the Red Apple Group. So, you've been investing in Brooklyn, what, 35 years?
Oh, at least forever. I mean, Brooklyn has come a long way. It was one tough town at one time, with a lot of tough areas. Now it has moved up to, if it was a city, the third largest city in the country. So Brooklyn is a real place, a real city that would be the third largest city in the United States.
But the majority of your development in Brooklyn is residential with certain retail components. Andrew's majority of his developments are industrial, being converted to office, as well as some retail over there. Paulo lives in Brooklyn, also lends in Brooklyn in a variety of places. And Brian, you're based in Brooklyn and you do business all over. Where do you see the greatest opportunities today in Brooklyn?
Well, it's all about transportation. Brooklyn has a transportation systems with the railroad and with the subway system that is next to none. If you ever had to replace it, it costs you $1 trillion. So all the developers in Brooklyn get the advantage of an existing transportation system. People were rebuilt by Metrotech. There's 3 different subway stations, 3 different subway systems. Can take you anywhere, plus the Long Island Railroad. So it's easy to get to Manhattan, easy to get anywhere in the city, and that helps a great deal.
You came to New York from Miami a number of years ago. How'd you end up in Brooklyn? You're buying a home in Brooklyn right now, and the bank has made a number of loans in Brooklyn. Why Brooklyn?
So I got to Brooklyn by accident. I was really went into a neighborhood, Clinton Hill, fell in love with the architecture. This is back in 2007, and still to this day, I love the architecture of Brownstone, Brooklyn, Clinton Hill, Carroll Gardens, and so on. At that point in time, I was with the bank. I was in a different role. I was in an underwriting role. Back in 2010, we started lending again. And we saw an opportunity, quite frankly, to get into a market where maybe other lenders were not as attuned to what was going on in the Brooklyn market as we were. And we started lending with people who knew the market. You know, the job of a bank is relatively easy. Just make sure you have smart clients, and then the rest will take care of itself. So thankfully, we got good clients, knew the Brooklyn market very well, and we grew with them.
You grew up in Brooklyn, you live in Manhattan, but your business, the majority of your business from the beginning was Brooklyn. Where do you see the best opportunities today in the borough?
So I think, entering the Brooklyn market in like 2002, there was a tremendous amount of inefficiency in the market, and I think the level of sophistication has really grown. The level of data or the level of information is easily accessible. I think in terms of opportunities, depending on the niche you're looking to be in, in the last several weeks, I've been focusing a lot of attention on, a lot of industrial work and commercial buildings further out, East New York, and other markets such as Sunset Park.
The question on the East New York is what John was saying before. East New York's biggest problem is they don't have the transportation. They don't have the mass transportation in East New York. East New York, you have the land, you have the capability of doing things, but the transportation is lacking over there. So that's a question of what you could do. If you look in your East New York situation, you go to the retail opportunities that Related did a number of years ago in that shopping center, which is very strong because it's right off the Bell Parkway. Today, everybody is talking about the office market in Brooklyn because people who live and work opportunities. How's that doing?
So I think that's very driven by the transportation. So for example, the Gowanus, which is got great transportation, tremendous housing stock around it, and a very finite marketplace, is kind of become almost like in demand, like Tribeca, Meatpacking District. So is Dumbo. And then I think as you go further out, it's a flight for affordability, where Sunset Park has become a very affordable market and there's a lot of demand. I think if you look at Williamsburg, the waterfront and the early stops of the L train from an office standpoint are going to be very strong. I think as you go further out into Bushwick, I think people are heavily speculating.
Let's talk about what you're doing in Brooklyn.
Yeah, touching on Sunset Park, which Brian was just speaking about, I think the number one piece about Sunset Park that interests people is really that affordability. You're taking these large adaptive reuse industrial buildings and we're converting them, by way of revamping the building envelope, the building infrastructure, and you're getting, brand new space for half of what you're going to pay for B- space in Manhattan. So we've been seeing a lot of technology, advertising, media, information tenants all coming through and taking a look at this space, because not only is it more affordable, there's the room to grow and to be more creative, because the space that they can afford in Brooklyn translates to more collaborative space for their workforce. And in addition to that, their workforce is also in Brooklyn. I think that everybody could agree that the energy of Brooklyn has certainly increased over the last 2 decades. And people oftentimes, when I'm walking through my neighborhood, which happens to be Carroll Gardens, people reference that it kind of feels like what the Village did about 20 or 30 years ago. So that energy and flow of the folks that you have in those neighborhoods make it attractive.
If you look at something that Brian's organization did a couple of months ago, some of the tenants moved in, is with Marvin Shine property over there, as opposed to what you're doing with the adaptive reuse to office. Here was an industrial building which they've converted, that you have Bed Bath & Beyond, you have Saks Off Fifth, I think it's Nordstrom Rack, no, but you have all these
micro centers in there.
Yeah,
as well.
micro
Bye Bye
centers
Baby.
over there. Bye Bye Baby, but that's all part of the
Micro
Bed Bath
center.
and Beyond
Yep.
environment. But that's really worked out well. You know, I think a great example years ago was when where Costco is. Costco originally was planned for as a Kmart, but Kmart went bankrupt, and they adaptively reused it, and it's one of the best Costco's around. How do you see, and this relates to something that everybody here has an effect, the e-commerce and its effect on the retail in Brooklyn and in general?
In Brooklyn, less so than other places, but my wife does 92% of her Christmas shopping online, which is horrendous. What's going to happen to Sears or Kmart countrywide? I don't know. It's a problem, because if you have a Sears or a Kmart sitting in the middle of nowhere, what are you going to do with it? Amazon's starting to open up some brick and mortar stores, but the internet revolution, my kids, they don't even own a TV set. They don't want to own a TV set. They watch things on the computer.
In your initial business, I mean, you've been in many businesses, and you and I go back many years. You know, the grocery business was one of the big businesses.
Yeah.
But today, in many cases, you know, I assume that you live by it. I know you probably. Everybody lives by, you know, Instacart, okay, Fresh Direct, Amazon Fresh, all of this that people, I mean, what effect has that had on your supermarket business?
It's not a good effect. If you notice what happened in Manhattan, I think we're the last chain left. I mean, every other chain has gone bankrupt just about. And the only reason we're the last chain left is we own an oil company. And that helps. But it's a problem. We're no longer supermarkets. We are now convenience stores. We're there to service a walking trade within 3 or 4 blocks. And we still do a great job servicing them. And if you make those people happy, they continue to shop.
Right,
but every drugstore is a food store. You know, and between the drugstores, the Whole Foods, which has their own problems, the Costco's, the Kmart's, everybody wants to sell food. So what's the next shaking out? And there will be a shaking out.
Hey, look, there was an article last week talking about Fairway. They went through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and now they may be closing their warehouse because they're still losing money. How does the bank look at retail in the borough of Brooklyn? Because, you know, Brooklyn is a different type of retail, as we were saying. Different people shopping. It's different people are going there.
No, for sure. Retail, it's a challenging environment. I think you read the news, and 2017 is shaking out to be the tipping point where really, you know, this transformation from brick and mortar to e-commerce, it's really happening. But I think that opens up opportunities for other type of retail. For example, you know, in the bank, traditionally, we were not too fond of gym sort of establishments. But for the right gym, that's that's an opportunity that now you are looking at it differently.
You have a situation where you have retail opportunities in what you're doing in Brooklyn. You have tenants, or both. You know, you have tenants and you have owners who are looking at properties. How do you look at the health club craze? Because, you know, there are different types. You know, there's the very expensive, which is the Equinox, which they don't want to be called the health club. Then there's the Planet Hollywoods, you know, and the Planet Fitness, which are a different case. How do you look at that?
I think it's the type of fitness use that you're looking at, because if you're talking about a traditional gym, what landlords have to deal with is that there's a BSA approval process in order to get a gym approved to get into a retail space. That takes anywhere between 8 and 12 months to get through the Board of Standards and Appeals. So it's certainly an attractive use, because I absolutely agree with Paulo. It's something that, you know, people are going to need, and I think Brooklyn is underserviced in terms of fitness. But we certainly are looking at that use For example, the soccer tenant that we signed at Whale Square, they took close to 70,000 square feet to put an indoor soccer facility. And what we found was, since it's a field and not a fitness facility, that they don't have to go through the BSA process. So we look at that very favorably, and we're excited for those uses to come to our properties.
You know, Mike, we did a tennis facility in the Gowanus that's tremendous. And not only tremendous, they're training, you know, great athletes, but they've also gotten involved in the community and the schools. And just to hit on your point, we do a lot of retail leasing at CPEX, and we are seeing, you know, 5 or 10 years ago, the franchise schools, the medical tenants,
The urgent care centers.
urgent cares are becoming more creditworthy than some of the traditional retail apparel. And I think we're kind of moving towards, like, ancillary services are going to be around. And I think, you know, the retail apparel type of stores are the ones that are really struggling.
You know, when we talk about Brooklyn, one of the areas which I grew up in, and the people, you know, and we talked about it last week when we did a zoning show, is the Coney Island. You've been in downtown Brooklyn for years on Myrtle Avenue, but you weren't into Coney Island until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I believe.
About 5 years ago, we bought a few parcels of land. We own 3 or 4 city blocks over there, and we're thinking of pressing the button and to turn it into a beautiful rentals or condos, probably rentals, on the beach.
Now, my question is this. In order to be a true 24/7 neighborhood, you need the retail. Now, Coney Island may have some amusement parks, okay, but Coney Island lacks retail. So would a large component of the property include retail?
Well, what we did in Brooklyn when we first opened on Myrtle Avenue, we put a drugstore and a supermarket. Between drugstore and a supermarket these days, it's probably 90% of what you need. And it services the community.
What do you, as an owner, where are the tenants today coming from in your residential? You have 3 residential towers in downtown Brooklyn. What percentage would you say work in Brooklyn? Or
a lot of them work in Manhattan, and because it's easy for them to commute to Manhattan.
And it's a lower cost alternative.
It's a lower cost, and it's trendy. It's cool to live in Brooklyn.
That we know. I have 2 guys who live in Brooklyn.
I call it energy. He calls it cool. But it is. He's right.
Depends on the age of the person saying the question.
Precisely, but it's also a great place for families.
You know, Brian brought up the subject about Bushwick. What's your thoughts about Bushwick? I mean, Bushwick is, you know, transit-oriented developments are important, but the longer it takes has an effect on people. How are you seeing the investment sales prices in the Bushwick neighborhood today, and also the other neighborhoods like Red Hook?
So look, I think Bushwick is somewhat stronger than Red Hook because the housing demand is good there. And I also think while a lot of the industry believes the train and the work coming up on the L train is going to have such a negative impact on Bushwick, I actually think it's going to have a positive impact because it's going to create a local economy that needs to evolve there, and it may end up being stronger 2 years, 3 years from now when that work is done, because the neighborhood can't survive on just commuting to the city for employment. I think that neighborhood will end up standing on its own as a result of the transit being out of effect for a couple of years.
Many years ago, when John went to, Brooklyn Tech, which is not directly in Clinton Hill, but the Pratt area was as they would say, a difficult neighborhood. It was a little rough to be in the neighborhood.
You didn't go to Fort Greene Park without the football team.
Okay. So,
John, I think they used to call Myrtle Avenue Murder Avenue, right?
Just about.
I mean, there was at one time a subway on Myrtle Avenue.
Yes,
there was an
was.
L.
Yes.
There was
and the station is still there. It's underneath someplace.
Right, but they had a Myrtle Avenue L. When you have to explain to people in Florida, and when you have to explain to the board in Venezuela, these new emerging neighborhoods and the different asset classes, how do these people approach a market? You know, it's like many people would not want to lend money a number of years ago when there was the bonfire of the vanities because they said the Bronx was failing. Okay, and you know, people looked at that as a negative because they perceive this over there. How did the bank take the perception of Brooklyn?
So, you know, Mike, you know, one of the things that we do at the bank is every quarter we get senior management from the headquarters, and we fly them up to New York and we tour with them every single market where we're lending. Brooklyn, it's, you know, it's become a significant portion of our portfolio, so we've done that. And you know, I still recall one of the comments back in, you know, must have happened in 2011. We were with a board member in Williamsburg, and his comment was, "This feels to me very much like Soho in the 90s, 80s." So, you know, people see the activity, they see the energy, just, you know, touring these markets, just by observation, I think.
Well, one of the big items that people have heard about Brooklyn, and you know, it's, you know, you see the signs. You even see at the end of the show on the Stoller Report, it says "Made in New York City." The conceptual idea and the approach, which I'd like John's also thoughts on, "Made in Brooklyn." People like that idea. I mean, I recently was in Nashville, and I went to, ironically, a place that made beer one day and a place that made whiskey another day. But we were there as tourists, but you know, it was good for the community and so on. You've been involved. What's your thoughts about the Brooklyn manufacturing business today?
I mean, I think number one, Brooklyn is a brand all in itself, and Made in Brooklyn is something that's attractive worldwide and recognized worldwide. But manufacturing is certainly something that's still active within the borough. I mean, we're seeing a lot of the garment center tenants starting to relocate to places like Sunset Park, going into Bushwick because they have the space and they're getting pushed out of the city because of rents. And I think that the maker spaces that are being created as well certainly lend itself to the manufacturing continuing in the borough for years to come, because the opportunity for a brewery, for example, to come in and you know, brew their own beer and bottle their own beer and sell it out of their space in Brooklyn still exists. It doesn't really exist within Manhattan, so the manufacturing is still something to look forward to in the borough.
Are you seeing manufacturing companies coming to CPEX today for finding space or building on their own property?
Not building on their own, but we're seeing them being fragmented from startups to existing businesses that have owned their own real estate, may need less space. The business has changed, like the technology has changed for manufacturing, so their requirements are not as big as they used to be. They're becoming more efficient. It's almost like the Michael Dell model. There's a shop in Williamsburg where they're making like backpacks. They have the design area in one space, the machinery in the next, and they're selling the bags in the third space, right within the same space. And probably manufacturing, you know, smaller runs to accommodate immediate supply.
Brooklyn recently had the opening of the Alamo Drafthouse, which is, you know, there are more luxury theaters in the city today. There's been a mass conversion of a lot of the theaters in the city to the extended, the reclining chairs and so on. It's a different business over there, and you're the consummate retailer over the years. What's your thoughts about the cinema business and the other, you know, because people, part of living in Brooklyn, living in New York, is you want some leisure time.
I don't know the future of the cinema business. I think being part of a certain crowd, I would pay $50 to stay home and watch a major movie. So charge me $50. I'll stay home. I'll order food from the restaurant on the internet and have a good time. We've done that several times.
So the question comes in, you know, of different businesses that can relocate. And part of the situation was in City Point, they had the space over there, and, you know, they moved into, you know, the Alamo Drafthouse. But here's something that someone said to me which was very interesting. Target in Brooklyn and in City Point, as well as Century 21, have very large stores. Now, these stores were conceived and leases signed 8 to 10 years ago, before e-commerce had such an effect. How do you see the reduction in the size of stores having an effect on some of the mega stores in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, and around Brooklyn in general, because of the stores that were there? Brian, any thoughts?
You know, it's interesting because Century 21 is such an incredible driver of that whole center. And if you look at like 86th Street in Brooklyn, you know, it's an anomaly.
But the 86th Street store is not, this is a 125,000 square foot store. What I'm saying to you, in today's world, stores are being cut down, and you know what you just said about the place we're manufacturing in a smaller place. I mean, it's just something that, Andrew, any thoughts on that?
I think that certainly the move towards smaller spaces is very real, but I don't think there's anything that's going to replicate a Century 21 type atmosphere immediately. I think that people like to physically go there and go through the items themselves.
Right, but in a manner, you know, if you look at it this way, your Marshalls or your Target are maybe 30,000 square feet, while a Century 21 over there is 120, as opposed to the one that you were talking on 4th Avenue, a different market. But I think, and especially the new Target stores, Target is reducing their stores to making more of a city Target store. So yeah, I think it's just, evolution is like John was saying before, e-commerce is having an effect on retail in general, and it's definitely going to have an effect.
You can't afford to pay for that kind of space on what they need to get paid. And besides that, I wouldn't go shopping in a 125,000-foot store unless you gave me that skateboard Back from the Future. You know, you go flying around.
You want that, or you need a Segway.
Yeah, Segway. I mean, but it's silly to go shopping in a 125,000-foot store, unless you're really bored. But busy New Yorkers, a lot of them are not that bored.
Right.
But I also think, Mike, that location has a lot to do with it.
Right.
125,000 square feet in downtown Brooklyn is something much different than 125,000 square feet in Coney Island.
Right,
or
in Ridgewood, or
yeah, exactly.
Red Hook, or
you know, there's a fallback.
So in summation,
audience,
right?
No
so in summation, I think the hipness of Brooklyn, the fact that the convenience, the transportation, and people want to be there, and things are only going to continue to be good in Brooklyn. And I'm happy that all of you were here. I'd like to thank Brian, Paulo, Andrew, and John, and I'll see you next week.